Hey, it's Steve Cochran, and welcome to Live from my office, live from my kitchen. Happy New Year. Not exactly the way we planned on starting the new year. It's a little tough to work topical in the podcast space, but there's a story that broke last week that's too big to ignore. We'll get to that in just a second. Normally, the beginning of the week, I like to do anything but politics on a Monday or a Tuesday. We'll flip that this week. Later this week, Kevin Matthews will join me, my old pal from the Loop days. He's got a movie out about his Christian faith and his broken Mary mission. Pretty cool. And Kevin will be on later this week in what would be the Live from my office slot Thursday or Friday, and we just flip it this week, doing Live from my office now and anything but politics. But you're going to love hearing Kevin again. All right, so for this first episode, we got to talk about Minnesota and what happened there and the trouble with ICE, because what happened there is inexcusable. We don't know the full details. The reaction has been horrific. But in summation, we've got a woman who's dead, a child is orphaned, and until we would have a full investigation, we really wouldn't know the truth. So I reached out to my friend Gary McCarthy. He ran the Chicago Police Department and did it well. And Gary McCarthy knows from this issue certainly how to handle crowds and how to handle situations like this. So we take on the trouble with ICE and the problem with ICE being mixed up with local police and local police taking the blame for a poorly executed mission. Because whether or not we like the fact that ICE is in all of these major cities, that's frankly a separate protest from how they're doing things, including, as Gary points out, not a great idea wearing camouflage in the city. Somebody missed a meeting. McCarthy himself is personally touched by issues related to immigration, and specifically immigration and drugs. So whether or not you agree that fentanyl is an immigration problem, Gary McCarthy has experienced the absolute worst of it, the nightmare. He lost his daughter just a few years ago to fentanyl. And I give him a lot of lack and a lot of leeway when it comes to this. Look, we don't agree on everything, but I always back the police until they've proven themselves to not be worthy of that support. And I'm doing it again now. So Gary McCarthy's here to explain what the police need to do and what ICE needs to do, possibly even better. That's today's episode. By the way, coming up, I invite you to check in with my Substack, because speaking of topicality, on Substack, I read about Venezuela and Greenland, and the other headaches we have. Keep in mind with Greenland, we don't need to invade. We don't need to buy it. We could up the ante on protecting it right now and not mess with NATO, our European allies, or any of the other things that could make things much worse. That's really the greatest danger with Trump. Whether you believe he believes what he says, with the power that he has, he's very dangerous in this atmosphere where nobody seems to be willing to step up and stop him for the greater good. On that Substack, that new Substack I've just written, it's a Q&A on Venezuela and Greenland. I think you'll enjoy it. So follow me there, subscribe there, and so on. And at some point this week, we're going to have to take on the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice latest ridiculous move, an investigation of Jerome Powell prior to his leaving the Fed. It sounds like a snooze, but it's a very big deal, and it's worthy of some explanation. So, how refreshing would it be in cases like this, because sadly we're going to have more of this, if these ICE raids continue, or if the government seems to have overstepped, if the far left would take a deep breath and not accuse anyone of murder until an investigation occurs, and if the far right, the party in power, and specifically the White House, would say, this is horrible that this woman died. We don't know the full circumstances. We don't know what happened until we do an investigation. So there won't be a lot of comment coming from us while this investigation goes on. Well, you know, it doesn't help. It doesn't help when Kristi Noem steps up and says she's a terrorist. It's outlandish behavior. And the reporting, frankly, has sucked as well. So we try to get to the bottom of this. Look, this is what I try to do all the time. I like playing the middle. I like pointing out what's wrong about both sides. Obviously, the Republicans get more attention now because they're in power. Trump gets more attention because he wants to be the leader of the free world, and he's willing to do anything to do it. And frankly, he doesn't do his homework. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and it's a big problem. But in the meantime, let's try to focus on what we're here for today, and that is a look at what happened in Minnesota last week with Gary McCarthy, a longstanding, powerful member of the New York Police Department, and a leader in the voice behind cops ever since, including a run here as the head of the Chicago Police Department. No easy job, as you can imagine. On with the episode. Now on live from my office, this is Gary McCarthy.
Back to live from my office, and Happy New Year to everybody. I'm glad you're here. Unfortunately, my handsome guest couldn't join us by video, but he is on the phone, and I'll introduce him in just a second with a very important, very topical thing to discuss, along with a lot of cool things going on in his world, still to better the lives for the rest of us. So more on that in a second. I haven't lost a step. What a good tease that was. In the meantime, please go to CochranShow.com for everything I'm up to. Read me on Substack, and we will have a big 2026 together. So without further ado, the former superintendent of police for the city of Chicago, a huge deal in the New York City Police Department and law enforcement around the country. It's my friend Gary McCarthy. How are you, pal?
You know, Steve, if I'd have known, like Mickey Mantle said, if I'd have known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. But having said that, I'm good, man. I got an unbelievable, beautiful wife and a daughter, I still have a daughter. I lost one. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, awful.
Fentanyl. And you know a lot of 67-year-olds that have 9-year-olds.
Yeah, listen, it says a lot for your plumbing. And I'll also say this: being married to this lovely, beautiful attorney, and being able to still, function, because I'm sure you've never won an argument.
I have not won an argument in 12 years. I don't even try anymore.
No, of course not. That's because you're smarter than the rest of us. Please say hi to the family, and thank you for doing this. The important, everything I talked to you about is important, but let's talk about the most topical thing. And that's what's happened in Minneapolis and also now in Portland, where there have been ICE agent shootings. We don't know a lot about the Portland story. We seem to know a little bit more about the story of Minneapolis. However, since we're all amateur analysts with phones with video, we all seem to know the answers. So I have several questions for you, Gary McCarthy, starting with the video that you've seen from Minneapolis. Does it trouble you?
Well, have you seen the one that just came out?
I've not. No, we're doing this on the 9th at about 3:00. So I missed it. What is it?
Yeah, in the last half hour, somebody sent me what appears to be the body cam video from the shooter. And I didn't think he got hit by that car, but he actually did get hit by the car based on what I'm seeing on this video.
All right. Well, that's good. So you're still telling the truth about that. That's a good thing.
Can I just back us out for a second?
Sure.
Because I want to talk about the big picture, and then we can drill down on details.
Yep.
In the aggregate, right? Here's what I say about ICE and what they're doing. I am okay with their mission, right? Any sort of law enforcement, particularly criminal law enforcement, I am obviously okay with. But by the same token, their methods are horrible. You look at the videos of them shooting pepper balls into crowds, spraying OC gas all the time. I want you to think about the fact that for the NATO summit in 2012, I changed our use of force continuum so that only I could authorize the use of tear gas.
Right. I remember that.
I'll never forget, I'm at a community meeting, and a woman says to me, "Are you going to use tear gas to control the crowd?" And I said, "Well, only if you can explain to me how tear gas controls a crowd."
That's a great point.
It doesn't. What it does is it takes a crowd of 100 and breaks it up into 10 crowds of 10. I think my math is good there. And they go in different directions. And that causes mayhem. That causes disorder. So that's just a very short example. You don't throw people to the ground. You only do that if you're arresting them. And we see these things happening across the country. And that's not okay. They're not municipal police. Municipal police, if we ever acted like this, we would be shut down in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and that's one of the
So,
things that I told you yesterday I'd love to talk to you about is I don't like, because you know what a fan I am of what the cops do every day, what you've done every day of your
yeah,
career, and a supporter. But what I don't like is the fact that local police are lumped in with the bad tactics of ICE, and people tend to think ICE and local police are one and the same. They're not.
no, not at all. So that's one thing. That's from one side. That's from law enforcement. But now I got to talk about this because this is scary. You know, I was raised, and I think you know this, by the greatest generation. My parents
Yep, me too.
were born in 1920 and 1924, and my dad was a World War II Marine. He was a machine gunner at American Samoa, Guadalcanal, New Guinea,
Yep.
New Britain, Iwo Jima, and the occupation of Japan. He came home, became a New York City cop. One of the things that I'm most proud about in my entire police career is that I wore his shield when I was a police officer.
God bless him. God bless him.
Isn't that amazing?
I did not
And
know
my
that.
mom, typically, my mom was a nurse. So you got a cop and a nurse raising a blue collar family in a blue collar neighborhood. Um, and I was the youngest of three boys. I'm actually the youngest of my entire generation. So the dynamic of my son Kiernan's cousins is completely blown up. They're like two generations in front of them, even though they're first cousins.
Sure.
But by the same token, we were raised differently. And Dad actually spent some time as a drill instructor in the Marine Corps. So picture what that.
Yeah. I'm guessing when you screwed up, it got a little ugly.
We got told to do things exactly once.
Right. Right.
We weren't told twice to pick up your socks.
Right.
So compliance is something that I've been raised with my entire life. Now I've got to ask you this. Well, not even ask you, but present it. If you think about it, what is happening across the country, and we see it in these videos all the time. Where did it come that we can pick and choose what laws we want to comply with?
No, you can't.
When did that happen? What if, and maybe this is already the case and I'm just not recognizing it. What if on the south side of Chicago, people decided that it was okay to do gunpoint robberies?
Right.
And when we locked those people up, there were protests because we shouldn't be locking them up. If you don't like the laws, change the laws.
100%. 100%. Now, I will say this, because you led the charge on this. Politics tends to make everything policing worse in the last many years, and make your jobs much more difficult. And I think this is another example of this.
Certainly the Safety Act, for sure.
Yeah, but I think this is another example of this because this went political immediately before we knew anything. And how refreshing would it be if the politician stood up and said, look, somebody died here and we need a full investigation to figure out what happened. And it doesn't help that you're analyzing it on your iPhone or that your analysts on CNN are telling us what happened because they don't know. So, but unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. So in this world we live in, it makes it very tough to be a cop. But what you're describing with the ICE tactics disturbs me because to me, they are not trained in close combat, if you will, urban settings. So because of that, their trigger finger may be a bit more itchy if you get somebody who's a bit of a loose cannon to begin with. Oh, I mean, that's all problematic.
Sure. Well, bad policy and bad tactics lead to bad things, right? And you know, I just want to back up a little bit. When you talk about politics, you know, when people complain about us being a welcoming country and we should be welcoming, which by the way, I agree with,
Sure.
But there's a process to make that happen. And when people talk about the open border, you know, this is what I say, and it's obviously very personal to me. I say, you know, I don't know if my daughter would be alive right now if the border was closed, but I know that she's not. And I know that the fentanyl came through the border.
Right.
And people start stammering and stuttering. It's like, it's really that simple. You know, we have to protect ourselves and the government is supposed to be protecting ourselves. So, you know how this whole thing can be fixed? And it's almost as simple is if sanctuary cities would use detainers when local law enforcement picks up John Q. Smith, who happens to be from, make it up, Guatemala, Finland, wherever he's from, who shouldn't be here, and we lock him up for a robbery. All they have to do is come and pick him up and process him and get him out of here. But what's happened is you got judges in Milwaukee who are helping people escape to avoid detention.
Yeah, well, listen,
breaking the law.
no, listen, activist judges don't help anybody. But by picking up everybody and not having due process, that also feeds the fire. So
Without a doubt.
how
That's
do
what
we,
I'm saying.
get the genie back in the bottle where ICE can do their job and they're not the bad guys coming to every city? Because like I have problems with the whole constitutional part of this as well. I believe in process, I believe in order, but my main issue is if a city says the police department as it's handled, let's do this in a lawly manner, and you have ICE agents on the street and the cops are trying to maintain order, and it's just a hot mess. Nothing good can come out of that. So the politics make it all bad. So let me get back to ICE for a second. The ICE training that goes on, it bothered me to see Kristi Noem on TV recruiting. So where do ICE agents come from? Are they cops? Are they law enforcement people? Or are they people looking for work who get trained?
Yeah, I don't really know that, Steve.
What's your gut on
I
it?
dig that far down. My gut is they're people who join federal authorities like ICE and eventually try to move into something more glamorous like the FBI or DEA. So, but here's a distinction that people don't understand. In general, ICE is being blamed for all of this, but what we're looking at on TV, and when we see this guy Bovino, who, quite frankly, I have a problem with, that's border control. And there's a distinction between the two. ICE will identify Gary McCarthy as an illegal immigrant who's wanted for robberies in Cincinnati and go after Gary McCarthy. Those men and women are generally in plain clothes,
Okay.
not camouflage, which, by the way, just think about the fact camouflage doesn't really work very well in an urban environment.
No, really, unless your
camouflage places.
unless your camouflage is concrete gray and you're disguising yourself as a building. I totally agree. I mean, that's why all this feels ass backwards in a lot of ways. And I feel
sanity.
No, but I also feel for the ICE agents. I mean, look, the majority of ICE agents are on their mission. They're doing their job as their mission describes. There's a few bad apples in every bunch, but because of the wardrobe, because of the profile, because of the way it's been covered, everything gets more difficult. But if you were superintendent of police, would you have the access to say to the federal government, don't come to Chicago unless you have a system and a plan?
That's what I've been saying I would have done from the beginning. And I'm going to harken back to the days of, dare I say his name, Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah.
And me being the superintendent, the very first tenet of me taking that job was an agreement between him and I that I was really going to run the police department.
Right.
So if the politics of the day had it that we were a sanctuary city and weren't going to be cooperating with the federal authorities, he and I would have had to knock them down, drag them out, brawl behind closed doors, right? Because we always said that there can't be any light between us when we're in public. But I can tell you that 99% of the decisions that were made in the Chicago Police Department when I was the superintendent were my decisions based upon what was best for the community and the department.
Yeah, and you
not
see
the politics of the time.
No, and you told me a story at one point, which I felt really enlightening about that relationship until the end. And that was, I believe Ram said to you, you're going to run the department. If I have to intervene, respect the politics I have to deal with. The phraseology is off, but that's the message you were given. And that system worked until it didn't.
Yeah. until well, until the politics became, I got to save my sorry little ass.
Right.
That's what happened there.
Right.
And everybody knows it. There's no mysteries here. Everybody knows what occurred. So put that aside. I'm just describing the environment. He and I would, if need be, and I've said this publicly, and I'm going to say it again. If someone were to tell me, after 43 years of doing law enforcement, that when a law officer asks for help, I'm not allowed to help them, I would help them. And then if need be, you can fire me or I'll resign my position if that's the politics of the day.
Right.
Because you know what? I have these things called principles.
Right.
And the principle is, first of all, we're going to obey the law, which goes back to what I just talked about. What makes it okay to not obey immigration law?
Well, it's not, and this goes all the way back to Reagan, when Reagan and Bush 1 did the last meaningful immigration legislation. But this is, to put it mildly, this is an overcorrection, Gary. This is something.
Yeah.
This is something where it needs to be met in the middle. Congress's role needs to be respected, even though I have zero respect for what's gone on in Congress, and especially in the last couple of years. But to fix the immigration system, to fix it, it's not picking up women and children, illegal or not, and not giving them due process and sending them to a country where the kids, or maybe the mother as well, have never been. I mean, that just makes us all look worse.
If I want you to think about taking, and this is probably an oversimplification, but you take a guy who's born and raised in Texas, Arizona, and he becomes a border patrol agent. And it's real simple. You watch for people coming over the border, you catch them and you put them back, right? Now you take them and you put them in Chicago and you want them to do street stops and investigations all at the same time. There's got to be limited training. There's so much liability here.
Right.
It's overwhelming. As a matter of fact, it almost makes me think about my business where I'm making money off of other people, how they screw up.
Yeah.
And without the training, without the tactics, and without the policies, they're wide open. So there's no sense here. But the simplest thing to do, I'm going to go back to it, and I hope I don't say it again, because I do that sometimes. Put the detainers on people who we catch who shouldn't be here for other crimes, and this will all go away.
Yeah, because in with that system,
you'll pull a bus up to 26th Street
right
twice a day,
26
pick
and
up 50 people, and we're done.
Right, and you will
All
process the
goes
people.
away. There's no tear gas.
Right.
There's no tear gas. There's no shootings. There's no masks.
And you'll process the people who legitimately do need to be kicked out as fast as possible, and process, and not just picking up everybody from grandma on down.
Yeah.
Well, the problem's going to continue as long as the politics of this and the bad reporting of this continues. The politics are going to continue as well. I would never ask anyone in grave danger as a citizen to just stand there and take it any more than I ask cops to do the same, though people have no idea what you guys stand down from every single day and the abuse that cops take on the street, and they don't take action. It's not a TV show, boys and girls. But having said that, obey the law. And in the environment we live in now, understand that if you are illegal, you are marked, and do what you need to do to protect yourself. And for those who are out there who think intervening with ICE and trying to create a publicity stunt, and I'm not saying the woman in Minneapolis did that at all, because I don't believe she did, but for others who think that's the answer, that makes it worse.
You have to see the new video.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. But I mean,
it shows, I mean, up until about a half hour ago, I said to myself, this is a terrible shooting. Okay, it's still a bad shooting, but it got a lot better in my mind when you see that this guy actually does get hit by the car.
Yeah, it gets better in terms of procedure, is what you're talking about.
It gets better in terms of why it happened. And by the way, you said intervene. I say obstruct.
Right.
You cannot listen. You're talking to a guy who two guys in Harlem got into a shootout over my car. Okay. And I caught one of them, and the guy dropped the gun, and then I tackled him. And I'm alone in the middle of Harlem, and there's an angry crowd, and there's a gun 20 feet away from me while I'm trying to handcuff this guy. So if people obstructed me then, I probably wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Right. Right.
So that's a very important fact. Obstructing the police
On any
is
level.
illegal.
On any level.
It's illegal.
Yeah, as it should be.
The law says that even resisting an illegal arrest is illegal.
Right. Right, because we
So-
don't know it's an illegal arrest until you've been processed.
Until we're done.
Right.
Until we're done. Until we figure out exactly what happened.
All right, so let me ask
So-
you this. If you had, because we'll be out of time here shortly, but if you had an opportunity to sit down with Trump or Trump and Noam and I don't know who on the other side, as the voice of reason, what would you say to them? Would you go back to this detain argument you're talking about? Because it seems like what you're talking about is the only logical solution.
Oh, absolutely, I would, but that's not Trump and Noam. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way the system is set up.
But
But
I'm saying in lieu of
individuals-
sending more people to town and recycling all of this again.
Well, what they do have to do is change their training. They have to change their policies, and they have to change their supervision. I mean, act like a municipal police department. Dress like a municipal police
Right,
department.
right.
There was a movement, and it went away, to take our SWAT teams who wear the green army-looking uniforms.
Right.
Why are they doing that? Why aren't they wearing blue uniforms? And I
Right.
said, you know what? That makes a lot of sense to me. So, I mean, all of that stuff matters.
Well, you know what
is
else,
the
Gary?
use
Gary, you know what else matters? The fact that your successors, some of your predecessors, worked very hard to establish and reestablish trust in the city between minority groups and the police. And that's the majority of the success that's taken place is the individual contact between off-duty cops playing basketball with gang members at night. Just breaking down those walls of trust to try to do the right thing. And what bothers me, aside from the obvious that this woman died, is that the trust goes away so instantly with a story like that.
Yeah, but you know what else creates trust is when we do our job.
Right.
And our job is law enforcement. But we are only the tip of the spear. Nobody's looking at the Kim Foxes.
Right.
Nobody's looking at the George Soros prosecutors across the country who are doing the same thing that people are doing by obstructing the police.
Well, you know what it comes down to, Gary? It comes down to the same thing we always talk about. The primaries coming up. Illinois is where we are outside of Chicago. Illinois is coming up as one of the early primary states. No matter where you are in America, understand this. You have to vote in your primaries. You have to identify, and by the way, it takes about 15 minutes online. There's a million ways to find out who your reps are, who the candidates are. Ballotready.com is a good source. Go to any of those and figure it out. But if you just show up in November and you go, oh God, I can't believe who we're stuck with. You're stuck with that because we live in a primary system where the far right and the far left show up in small numbers and decide who's going to be there for the main race. If you care about the midterms and you care about the direction of this country, get off your ass and go vote in the primaries.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of terrified for the world that we're leaving for my son.
Amen, man.
You know, I mean, think about how I feel about New York City. I haven't been back for 9/11 since 9/11.
How about that?
I mean, for an anniversary.
How about that? You were on the
I'm
ground.
talking
You were
to-
on the ground there every day.
Yeah, I got trapped twice. But I had I got caught in 2 collapses.
Incredible.
But here's where I'm going with this. I set up a command post where Giuliani, the police commissioner, the whole upper echelon of the police department and city government came to that place, and we got trapped there. So I'm talking to Joe Dunn last year, like I always do. Joe Dunn was the first deputy, and he was such a remarkable leader who helped take us through that. And I'm like, Joe, I haven't been back. Next year is 25 years. I got to come. He said, Gary, I got to point out that it's me, you, and basically Rudy Giuliani, and we could debate whether or not Rudy Giuliani is alive or dead.
Right.
But it's me, you, and him that's left. And I'm like, that's it, Joe, I'm coming. Now all of a sudden I'm going to be looking at Madani while I'm standing there under the towers.
Yeah, which is
You have a problem.
Yeah, no, listen, and on a personal and a professional level, that part of it's understandable. Imam Dani in New York has to prove that he's not Brandon Johnson, because it's a thin line that has saved the city of Chicago from complete chaos with Brandon Johnson in charge, who at last look had the approval rating of 3-day-old socks. I've never seen approval rating so low.
Well, I'm going to add one more thing to that, and it's self-serving, and I apologize for that. We got the murder rate down to 409, I believe it was, in 2013. And in 2016, after I got fired, it was at 767. As best I could figure out, if we stayed on track or near on track to what we were doing in the Chicago Police Department, there would be 1,600 more people alive in Chicago today.
How about that math?
And when my friends across the country say to me, Gary, what's wrong with Chicago? I say very simply, Chicago politics.
100%.
And everybody's like, oh, that makes sense.
No,
So-
listen, politics.
Our
yeah,
society is not functioning the way it's supposed to, neither are our government.
You know, you see a kid, an adult who grows up and is a dick. In all likelihood, they had terrible parents. When you see a city that's messed up, it's not messed up by the police. It's not messed up by the fire department. It's messed up by the politicians. And that's the case in Chicago. And while the national reputation of Chicago is not accurate, the incredible, terrible politics of Chicago are in the process of being cleaned up. And frankly, Gary, it's not going to happen in your lifetime or mine, because there's just not enough time. So God bless us all. All right, quickly.
Well, let me leave you with this one.
Well, I got to ask you about your plugs, my friend. And
The last comment that
go.
we can plug away.
yeah.
Last comment is this. When I look at 99.9% of the elected officials that we put in office, I say they have never been punched in the face.
You know what? You're exactly right. Exactly right.
And you know what? Getting punched in the face is a wake-up call.
Right. Right. You know what? I don't remember if it was Tyson or somebody said, but it's that old quote. Everybody has a plan until somebody punches them in the face.
Until it punched you in the face, yeah.
That's great. Wow, there's the mic drop. All right, you are still serving the good people of
Willow Springs.
And how are things?
And it's great. It's great. I mean, there are people who appreciate the police. We have virtually no crime, and it's just a great community.
Good.
And I'm very fortunate. Mayor Nettemeyer is a wonderful, wonderful woman, and she's tough as nails. She's not a big woman by stature, but I'll tell you what, she's big as far as having the moxie to get things done. I love it.
Good. And the other thing is that's important for people to know. If you've not yet seen it, you're doing a show for the people at Fox. Tell everybody where it airs. And I love it because it's hands off. You're doing the content and you're showing what it's like to be a cop and telling the truth about cops.
Yeah. And having cops there to do it. And, you know, I've had guys like Charlie Beck, who was the chief in Los Angeles for a very long time. I've had Ella French's mom and Carlos Yanez on.
Sure.
It's just a murderer's row list of high profile, badass, good people. And it's called Wearing the Badge. You can get it at Fox 32. It's being streamed right now. We just started our second season. We've got 2 shows in the can. I think that puts us up to like 18 or so. And we've got 3 planned for January. Or you could YouTube it and just YouTube Wearing the Badge, and it pops right up. It's a lot of fun. There's no guardrails except for mine. Usually when Kristen sees them, she hollers at me. She says, "I can't believe you said that." I said, "Okay."
Yeah. Thank
You
you.
still married me.
Thank you. Thank you, counselor.
Exactly.
Wearing the badge. Google it up on Fox with Gary McCarthy. My friend, I always appreciate your time and, of course, your service.
Dave.
My best to your family. And let's do this a little more often in 2026.
I'm good. Hopefully going to be around. I'm doing the best I can. Stay
Yeah.
above ground.
Yeah, me too. Me too. God bless.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Mel. You too. Bye-bye.
I want to thank Gary McCarthy for being on. I also want to encourage you to watch his Fox show, Wearing the Badge. If you go to Fox News Chicago, I believe it's foxchicago.com. Just Google it, man. Just Google it. Gary McCarthy, Fox Chicago. You can see where you can see and when you can see Wearing the Badge. It's an unvarnished look at being a cop in a big city, Chicago specifically. And you know, the odd thing is, it's true. All right, moving forward here, later this week, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Kevin Matthews is here. I'm looking forward to talking to Kev, and I think you're going to like hearing that. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see us there. And also, if you're just listening or you prefer to just listen, obviously, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, I mean, wherever podcasts are, that's where we live as well. Again, happy to have you here. And I look forward to getting off to a fun start at some point to 2026. But in the meantime, thanks for listening. So live from my office